प्रपन्न पारिजाताय तोत्र वेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. Om. Dear friends, in the last episode we just started the 9th chapter, which is called Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga. I explained to you the meanings of these two words, Raja Vidya and Raja Guhya. And Krishna also was praising this, this particular Vidya. He was emphasizing this certain qualities about this Vidya, basically to draw attention of Arjuna. Of course, Arjuna himself, as he praised, he is somebody who is listening to what all Krishna said with an open mind, and then he is having full faith and trust in what Lord Krishna is saying. So that also we saw. And then we saw the two slokas in the last episode. In the third sloka, it is only just an extension of the earlier one, that is Ashraddhadhana Purushaha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapyamam Nivartante. So he is saying that people who ignore my instruction, people who ignore this particular Rajavidya, they will keep on loitering, they will keep on rotating in this path of transmigration, that is birth, death, etc. That particular cycle of samsara, it is called samsara vartma. Vartma means this path. So if you listen to me, my talk, what I am going to say about this Rajavidya, you will be freed from this samsara vartma. That is what Krishna is saying. And what is that Vidya? So he is saying now as to the nature of reality. So here, of course, we have to see, first of all I will read the shlokas and then we will come to discussion. So this fourth shloka and fifth shloka are very important. So I will read this. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavasthitah. So he says, Maya tatamidam sarvam. By me, this whole universe is covered. Tatam. Tatam means vyaptam. The Sanskrit word is vyaptam. That is, totally it is covered by me. Jagat avyaktamurtina. And my real nature is avyakta. Avyaktam is something which is unmanifest. This shloka is in certain contradiction, certain contrasting words it is using. Now, on one hand he is saying this is avyaktamurti, but on the other hand he is saying that he is covering the whole thing. Maya tatamidam sarvam means I am pervading everything. In Vedanta or in logic, generally in logic, there are two words called that which is pervading something, that is that which is the pervader, and the other which is pervaded. Suppose we say, in order to explain it, suppose the commonest example they give is pots. You take 100 varieties of pots and then you take clay. Clay, what Vedanta say, we normally say, in the pot there is clay, we say. But Vedanta says, all the pots are in clay. That is, clay is something which is the basic thing which is existing. Whether pot is there or not, clay is there. Pot may be there, pot may not be there, but clay is very much there. And pot's shapes may change. That is the name and form of the pot. That is the nama and rupa, as we call it. The nama and rupa may change, but the original substance is there. So then, another example is somewhat like gold. So this gold is there and all the ornaments are in gold. So if we understand these statements, then we will understand this shloka. All ornaments are in the gold. Gold is not in the ornaments, in the sense that gold is not limited to ornaments. Similarly, clay is not limited to the pots. Pots are there, whether they are there or not. This gold, whether this clay is there, ornaments, whether they are there or not, this gold is very much there. So this is what is one thing. And another word also we have to see here, that is, when we say that God has created this world, when we say God has created this world, what do we say? What do we mean? So a man of religion doesn't much bother about it. A man of religion will say, okay, from out of nothing, God has just he waved his wand or something like that, and then he created this whole universe. A man of religion is not much worried about it. A man of religion is only worried about telling certain things to a group of people and then make him follow those things, and then he is interested in some type of social discipline. So that's all. But a philosopher, on the other hand, he wants to know the truth. A philosopher is interested in establishing what exactly is the nature, what exactly is the relationship between this so-called God and the universe. So, when we say Maya Tatamidam Sarvam, he is saying, when we say that God is the creator, then what is the material? And once we say that God is something which is of the nature of infinity, where is the material apart from that infinity? When we say that God is of the nature of consciousness, God is of the nature of infinity, and where is anything apart from that infinity? If I say that I am apart from infinity, I am somebody who is different from that infinity, then I am hitting at the very definition of the say that Brahman or God. Or if I insist that if I am totally different or I am totally apart from that, then I am making myself zero, because nothing can be there apart from that infinity. So, that God, or let me say what we call consciousness, is itself the very material for this world. So, what is called the material cause? So, for making a pot, in order to make a pot, what is the material cause? The material cause is clay. And of course, the potter is different, clay is different, potter and clay, there is a clear division. But in the case of God and universe, this material, if at all this universe can be treated as a material, this cannot be apart from God. If we really treat this material, say apart from God, it cannot be different from that, because anything different from that, you are making God again a very delimited person. So, it means that it is not different from that material cause. So, the instrumental cause or nimitta karana is not different from the material cause. So, that is why this what we call God is in Vedanta we call it as abhinna nimitta upadana karana. So, this is something which is, it is also the nimitta karana, it is also the upadana karana. There cannot be anything beyond this. So, in that sense we have to understand this word matsthani sarvabhutani. The second line says matsthani sarvabhutani, that is, all the beings exist in me. All the beings exist in me means we should not visualize some huge shape. Puranas, they talk about Lord Vishnu who is there, and somewhere in the stomach all the Brahmandas are there somewhere in the stomach. So, we should not imagine a very huge figure having a human shape, having so many hands, etc., etc., and then in his stomach all the worlds are there. We should not think like that. Maya matsthani sarvabhutani literally means all the beings are in me. So, this is actually, it is used in a figurative sense. We should understand it in that sense only. We should not think that all the things are in the stomach of Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva or some such deity. It is not in that sense. So, matsthani sarvabhutani, it only says in that sense, it has to be understood in that sense that all the parts are in clay, and then all gold ornaments are in, say, gold, and all the whole universe, this Jagat, is something which is in the Brahman, that it is not different from that. So, that is how we have to understand it. Matsthani sarvabhutani nacha aham teshu avasthitah. I am not in them. This is another point. Matsthani sarvabhutani nacha aham teshu avasthitah. That means I am not in them. How to understand it? Then what is Krishna saying? What is Krishna saying? Krishna, when we say he is not talking as Krishna, he is talking as the spokesperson of that absolute reality. That is what I have been saying again and again. So, nachaham teshu avasthitah means this supreme reality called Brahman is not in them, in the sense that it is not limited to that. Not only that, it is something which is an avikari. This consciousness is something which is infinite in nature and unchanging in nature. There is no change in that, because it is of the nature of consciousness, it is of the nature of awareness, it is of the nature of the knower. There is no change in the knower, there is only change in the object, but there is no change in the knower. So, that is why he says this avikari and also asanga, it does not have any association, it is not connected to anything. So, this is something which is slightly difficult to comprehend. We have to think on this. So, that is the reason why Lord Krishna was saying it is Raja Guhyam. So, even if you say it is not very easily understood, and it can be misunderstood also if it is not told to a person of some degree of maturity. So, that is what it says. Then the very next shloka, it is again something which is which appears to contradict what Krishna says here. Nacha matstani bhutani, this is fifth shloka, he says, Nacha matstani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram bhutabhrunnacha bhutasto mamatma bhutabhavanaha. Nacha matstani bhutani. In the earlier shloka he said matstani sarva bhutani. Matstani means all are in me. Then the second shloka says nacha matstani bhutani, they are not in me. So somebody who wants to read Gita in a very, very superficial way, he may say that there is a contradiction, because some people say Gita is full of contradictions. That is because we don't see the context in which Krishna is speaking, and then we don't see the level at which he is speaking. At what level he is speaking the first line, and at what level he is speaking the second line. So nachamatstani bhutani, he says, all these things are not in me. That is, this supreme consciousness is something which is of the nature of asanga, which is not having any attachment with anything. And then he says pashyame yogam aishwaram. It is a sort of yoga. In this, yoga actually means union, but here there is no union. It is something which is an appearance. All the things which are there, which you are seeing, are only an appearance in me. So that is what it means. Bhutabhrunnacha bhutastha. I am only a bhutabhrut. Bhutabhrut means I am the supporter, I am the base, or rather I am, what can we say, suppose you find a stick there on the ground, and suddenly if you see, and then that stick, you don't see it as a stick, but you see it as a snake. So that stick becomes the substratum, or that is the base for our imagination of a snake. So I am seeing a snake in a rope or a stick which is there on the ground. So that rope becomes the substratum. That is what is called the adhara. So that is the adhara, and then this visualization of rope, visualization of snake is there based on that adhara. So in that sense, I am a bhuta bhrut. This is the thing which conscious, or in other words, it also means consciousness is something which is reflecting in all the beings as sat and chit. There are two words which are used in Vedanta. One is what is called Sat and what is called Chit. Sat is something which is existing, that is you and I and everything which is existing. So all the whatever component which can be called existence is something which is of the nature of Brahman. Similarly, intelligence, that Chit is again which is of the nature of the supreme reality. So this Sat and Chit, in the form of this Sat and Chit, I am there prevalent, I am there supporting all the beings. What all the component of Sat and Chit, whatever you are seeing, they are supported by me. Nacha bhutastha, I am not in them. Mamatma bhutabhavanaha. So it is not as though I am supporting them, as though you are holding certain things in your hand. Say adhara, adheya bhavam, people say, that is something which is supporting something else, is called adhara. Adheya is something which is supported. It is not in that sense, it is only in a totally figurative sense. So that is what he says. The basic, to tell in a more simpler way, you see, when we say that consciousness is appearing as matter, or consciousness is appearing as this universe, then a question arises. This consciousness, suppose you visualize it as a huge mass of consciousness, and in that huge mass of consciousness, what percentage of consciousness is getting converted as this matter? So consciousness, suppose is it some 10% of the consciousness appearing or converting as matter, some 20% is it changing as matter, or some 30% is it changing as matter, and who is it that is knowing about that conversion? What is the knowledge, or what is the consciousness which is knowing all these things? That also has to be accounted for. So knowledge is something, knowledge in the sense consciousness is something which cannot undergo any change. There can only be an appearance. That is what we have been seeing in Vedanta. This consciousness is having that manifesting power which is appearing as what all we see in the universe. So that is what we see. And then this jiva, as we see, is something, a delimited consciousness which is limited to this body-mind complex. So that this is how we have to see. how should we read these two shlokas together? So the first shloka is from the point of view of a person of lower understanding. He is also a philosopher, no doubt. He is also a philosopher. He is much different from say the earlier, what all we saw earlier. This man, he is also a philosopher who is in the path of who is actually trying to know what is the reality. So the first shloka is talking about a slightly lower level of reality, and the second shloka is talking about a slightly higher level of reality or absolute reality. In absolute reality, what all Vishwam, what all you see it as the universe, is nothing other than Brahman. The first shloka is from the point of view of an ordinary person, to explain to a person that yes, all this thing is in Brahman, all these things are in Brahman, Matsthani Sarvabhutani. And the second, then when if you really question, how can that be possible? How much of consciousness is appearing as say matter? So then he says, really speaking, in reality, it is not really there in me. So which means it is only an appearance in me. And the say commentators here have given that standard example of rope and the snake, like we see that snake on the rope. So that is how this universe is in Brahman. So that is what they say. And say what we see as prapancha or what we see as the universe is nothing other than Brahman. So that is what we see in the Ishavasya Upanishad also. Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam. The whole universe should be seen as Brahman. The very first shloka of Ishavasya Upanishad, it says that the whole universe should be seen as that supreme reality. So then he says, Yatha akasha sthito nityam vayus sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani upadharaya. He is giving a common example so that we can understand the thing in a slightly better way. So the closest thing to Brahman is akasha, in the sense that akasha or space is something which is almost infinite. Brahman, we say it is infinite, and in that supreme consciousness, this akasha is a manifestation in that. Of course, akasha is not accepted by some schools of philosophy. For example, Buddhists, they do not accept akasha. Similarly, the materialists, Charvakas, they do not accept akasha. Charvakas and Buddhists, and also the Western philosophers, they say there are only 4 elements, that is Prithvi, that is earth, water, fire and air. Only 4 they accept. But we accept this say this thing called akasha also, because this akasha is very much needed in order to link up that consciousness with whatever is appearing. Otherwise, there won't be any link. So this akasha is something which comes close to what we can describe as Brahma. In akasha, you cannot find any difference. In akasha, you cannot make any parts. Suppose I take some pot and then hold in my hand. So there is akasha in that pot. Even if the pot is broken, that akasha is very much there. But whether it is there or not, it is very much there. Akasha is totally unaffected or untouched by whatever is there in it. Suppose I want to cut akasha by taking a sword, I do all this slashing. Even if by doing all this slashing also, I am not going to cut the akasha. So yatha akasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani. And in that akasha, this vayu is there all over, moving all over. And then like that, all the beings are there in me, matsthani iti upadharaya. But then they are there, but then the Brahman is totally unconnected with them. So in that sense it is. And then sarvabhutani kaunteya prakrutim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpadav visrujamyaham. So then again he is talking about the creator level, where the creator is going to create and then he is going to withdraw, kalpakshaya and then kalpadav visrujamyaham. Then prakrutim swam avashtabhya visrujami punah punah bhutagramamimam krusnam avasham prakriter vashat. Now he is talking from the point of view of that relative Brahman, which is called Maya. They say the Brahma who is associated with this creative power. This creative power we use the word Prakriti or Maya. Different words are used for that. Avyakta is another word we have seen earlier also. So this Brahman associated with this Prakriti, he creates the whole universe. So that is what he says. But then nachamam kartani karmani nibadhananti dhananjaya udasinavad asinam asaktam teshu karmasu. But then all these things, they are not going to affect me. They are not going to affect me. Nachamam tani karmani nibadhananti. Because whatever karma is there, that karma is going to affect whether a person is a human being or a god. So that is the reason why we do not accept the doership for Brahma. We do not accept the doership for Brahma, because if we say that God is somebody who is creating, who is doing this, that, etc., then he is also like us, who is doing certain things. And then like we have to get some karma phala, he also has some karma phala. So for that reason, we do not accept this doership for Brahma. We only say that this is an appearance in that Brahma, abhinna nimitta upadana karanam, as I just explained. So these karma, they do not nibadhananti, they do not bind me. Udasina vadasina. Udasina means somebody who is totally detached from that, somebody who is totally unconnected with that. So this will continue in the next episode. Harihi Om Tat Sat.